WIS investigates a Midlands town that has created its own speeding laws and is charging drivers hundreds of dollars in fines. It's happening in Turbeyville, which is in Clarendon County. WIS lead investigator Jody Barr uncovered this practice a few months ago. He joins us again for part 2 in this special. So, you know, the question raised in the first part of this is, legally, can they do this? How can they do it?
Dottie, I'll show you this. This is a letter from the state's Chief Justice. She says in this letter, it's because no one's even sued the town over this yet. Now, what they're doing is charging people for speeding under a town law, then issuing tickets as high as $388. But the trade-off, you won't lose any license points. The police chief defends the process, saying the purpose is, as he put it, to shock the conscience of the drivers he's charging.
It just seems to me like it's just a money-making thing.
Danny Long is one of the thousands of drivers issued tickets this year in Turbeyville. Drivers face a fine of up to $500 or 30 days in jail for speeding in town. Most just pay the fines because the town doesn't take license points. The DMV never knows it happened. We saw Turbeyville Police Chief David Jones issuing around 10 municipal speeding tickets on Labor Day. We tried to ask him about it that day.
We'd like to talk to you about these municipal tickets you guys are writing out here. Any comments from you?
Well, the court administration of the state of South Carolina.
We did.
Days later, the chief agreed to an interview with us to explain how his department can set aside state speeding laws and charge drivers under a town ordinance.
So you guys are writing these municipal ordinances every day of the week?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Why not just stick with the state law?
Because it's a town ordinance. So you saying I need to set aside one law to enforce another? What is the difference?
So what stopped the city from going in and saying, you know, we'll have our own DUI law, we'll have our own seatbelt law, we'll have our own...
State statute stops that.
Well, state statute, it doesn't stop the city from doing what you're doing, but it does provide a penalty for speeding. It's already on the books that legislature in Columbia sat down and decided this is what's going to work for the entire state. But it seems Turbeyville here has taken it on themselves to do what they wanted to when it comes to the speeding law.
Under state statute, there's a points assessed against your driver's license, and as you're aware, most people are trying to avoid the points. The town traffic ordinance does not assess points.
What does that tell you about this process?
It tells me it's a scam. It tells me the city of Turbeyville has come up with a revenue generating scheme as opposed to actually enforcing traffic laws. That's what's going on here.
Columbia attorney Todd Kincannon's seen cases like what's going on in Turbeyville before.
Turbeyville's like a troll at a bridge, and you got to write a big old check to get on by.
Kincannon successfully argued before the state Supreme Court in 2010 that Myrtle Beach could not charge its own fines under a helmet ordinance for bikers because state law addressing that was already on the books. If you had to go across the street today and argue what you know of this case to the Supreme Court, what would you tell those justices?
I would tell the justices that South Carolina state law has a standard here, and Turbeyville and every other city and county in the state has to follow it.
The Attorney General's office says it cannot find a case in South Carolina that's ever dealt with what Turbeyville's doing. But in this April letter, the state's Chief Justice wrote specifically about towns with ordinances similar to this. Justice Jean Toll wrote, the creation of other criminal ordinances which addresses acts that are already addressed by state law could possibly run afoul of the authority delegated to them under the Home Rule Act. The letter indicates if a lawsuit is filed, a court could strike down ordinances like Turbeyville's. Toll went on to write, because of the benefits defendants are told they are receiving, such a challenge is unlikely. The benefit in Turbeyville's case, that no point promise.
Are you prepared to face a lawsuit if someone filed it over this?
Yes, sir. We don't have any choice but to face it. If somebody files a lawsuit, we've got to answer it. Is that correct?
What would be your answer to the court?
Oh, no, sir.
Jones says he has no plans to stop issuing town ordinances in lieu of charging drivers under the state's speeding laws, and he says he's doing nothing wrong with accepting cash bonds. Jones says the town's making the streets around Turbeyville safer.
But if you knew on the way down here from Columbia, if you got stopped, you were looking at a fine of $288 or $388, and that was it, I guarantee you wouldn't be so quick to push down on that accelerator pedal. It should shock the conscience, shouldn't it?
So is this a revenue generating tactic, or is this we're trying to make this road safer?
We're trying to make this road safer. Just like I told you, should it be something reasonable, or should it shock your conscience?
Now, for the state to address what's going on in Turbeyville, it's going to take the Attorney General's office taking a look at the facts here, then possibly issuing an opinion. There's also the chance that someone could sue the town and leave it up to the court to figure out whether this is even legal. Now, another option, Dondi, according to the Chief Justice in her letter, is that the legislature could pass a law banning this practice if the legislature determines that this is inappropriate.
So all those calls I took on your behalf today in the newsroom, people saying, what's our recourse? What can we do from here? You say sue, but as of right now, it is legal, right? Unless they find otherwise.
Or if you're the attorney we interviewed,
Yes.
the way he looks at it, it is not illegal.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, he wants a court to figure this out. And the attorney told us a class action lawsuit would then put it in the court's hands, and they would, you know, call balls and strikes on this and either uphold it or strike it down as they did in Myrtle Beach.
Well, one thing we know for sure, when you go through Turbeyville,
Yeah, you
don't
better slow
speed.
down. Yeah.
Go the speed limit. All right, Jody Barr, thank you. Jody will return for the news at 6
We'll be
with
back.
another story yet, more in this investigation. Thank you.